Today, we're diving into the story of a man who had it all. Alexander the Great. His name echoes through history, synonymous with conquest and empire. But how did a young prince from a kingdom on the fringes of the Greek world become one of the most legendary figures of all time? This isn't just a story of battles and victories. It's a tale of ambition, legacy, and a world on the brink of change. Our story begins not with Alexander, but with his father, Philip II of Macedon. In the 4th century BC, Macedon was seen by the sophisticated city-states of southern Greece, like Athens and Sparta, as a bit of a backwater. They were a kingdom of hardy farmers and warriors, speaking a dialect of Greek that others found rough. But Philip was no ordinary king. He was a military genius and a shrewd diplomat. When he took the throne, Macedon was weak and fractured. He completely reformed the army, introducing the sarissa, a fearsome pike over 18 feet long. This weapon, used in a tight formation called the Macedonian phalanx, was practically unstoppable. Philip didn't just build an army. He built a professional fighting force, loyal only to him. Through a combination of warfare, strategic marriages, and cunning diplomacy, he united Macedon and then, one by one, brought the Greek city-states under his control. He wasn't just conquering. He was building a foundation. In 356 BC, Alexander was born into a world of rising power. His mother was Olympias. From the very beginning, Alexander's life was steeped in legend. Olympias claimed he was not the son of Philip, but of Zeus himself, the king of the gods. Whether true or not, this story fueled Alexander's belief in his own divine destiny. He was a boy of incredible energy and charisma. But beneath the charm was a fiercely competitive and ambitious spirit. There's a famous story about his youth concerning a wild, untamable horse named Bucephalus. No one could ride him. But Alexander, just a boy, noticed the horse was afraid of its own shadow. So he turned Bucephalus towards the sun, calmed him, and rode him, to the astonishment of his father. Philip, filled with pride, reportedly said, "My boy, you must find a kingdom equal to your ambitions. Macedon is too small for you." This wasn't just a boy taming a horse. It was a sign of the man he would become. Someone. Philip knew his son was special and gave him the best education money could buy. When Alexander was 13, Philip hired the most famous thinker of the age to be his tutor, Aristotle. For 3 years, Aristotle taught Alexander everything from philosophy and politics to medicine and biology. This wasn't just about memorizing facts. Aristotle instilled in him a love of knowledge, a curiosity about the world, and a deep appreciation for Greek culture, especially the epic poems of Homer. Alexander's favorite was the Iliad, the story of the Trojan War. He slept with a copy of it under his pillow, alongside a dagger. He saw himself as a modern-day Achilles, the heroic warrior of the epic, destined for glory. This education shaped his worldview. He wasn't just a barbarian conqueror. He saw himself as a champion of Greek civilization, destined to spread its ideals across the world. As Alexander grew into a young man, he started proving himself on the battlefield. At just 16, while Philip was away on a campaign, Alexander was left in charge of Macedon. When a Thracian tribe rebelled, Alexander didn't wait for his father. He led the army, crushed the rebellion, and founded a new city, naming it Alexandra Palista, first of many. His real moment to shine came 2 years later. At the decisive Battle of Chaeronea in 338 BC, this was the battle where Philip cemented his control over all of Greece. Philip gave his 18-year-old son command of the elite companion cavalry on the left wing. At a critical moment in the battle, Alexander saw an opening and led a charge that shattered the enemy lines. Specifically, the legendary Sacred Band of Thebes, an elite unit thought to be invincible. His courage and tactical brilliance were undeniable. He had proven he wasn't just the king's son. He was a commander in his own right. After Chaeronea, Philip announced his grandest plan yet, to lead a united Greco-Macedonian army to invade the mighty Persian Empire. This was the ultimate goal, a pan-Hellenic crusade to avenge the Persian invasions of Greece a century and a half earlier. It was a dream of glory, wealth, and revenge. But behind the scenes, the court of Macedon was a snake pit of intrigue and rivalry. Philip took a new wife, a young Macedonian noblewoman named Cleopatra. At the wedding feast, her uncle toasted to a legitimate heir for the throne, a direct insult to Alexander, whose mother was not Macedonian. Enraged, Alexander threw his cup and shouted, "What about me, you villain? Am I a bastard?" Philip drew his sword and lunged at his son, but stumbled and fell. Alexander mockingly said, "Here is the man who is preparing to cross from Europe to Asia, and he can't even cross from one couch to another." This public humiliation created a deep rift. Alexander and his mother, Olympias, fled into exile. Although they eventually reconciled, the trust was broken. The tension in the court was thicker than ever. Then, in 336 BC, during the celebration of his daughter's wedding, a grand public festival, tragedy struck. As King Philip II entered the theater, surrounded by crowds and feeling untouchable, he was stabbed and killed by one of his own bodyguards. The motive for the assassination is one of history's great mysteries. Was it a personal grudge? Was Pausanias a pawn in a larger conspiracy? Suspicion immediately fell on many, including Alexander and his mother, Olympia. After all, they had the most to gain. But nothing was ever proven. In the chaotic aftermath of his father's murder, the 20-year-old Alexander acted with ruthless speed and precision. There was no time to mourn. The throne of Macedon was not automatically inherited. It had to be acclaimed by the army. With the backing of Philip's most powerful generals, like Antipater and Parmenion, Alexander was immediately proclaimed king. But his position was far from secure. He still had rivals. He moved swiftly to eliminate any potential threats to his rule, executing relatives and political opponents who might challenge his claim. His father's grand project, the invasion of Persia, was now in jeopardy. News of Philip's death sparked rebellions across Greece. The city-states, like Athens and Thebes, thought this was their chance to break free from Macedonian control. They saw Alexander as nothing more than a boy, an inexperienced youth they could easily dismiss. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Alexander's response was terrifyingly swift. He marched his army south at incredible speed. When he arrived in Thebes, which had been the most defiant, he offered them a chance to surrender. They refused, mocking him from the city walls. Alexander's patience ran out. He unleashed his army on the city. The result was a massacre. Thousands were killed, and the ancient, proud city of Thebes was razed to the ground, completely destroyed, with only the temples and the house of the poet Pindar left standing. The rest of the population, some 30,000 people, were sold into slavery. This was a brutal and horrifying act, but it sent a crystal-clear message to the rest of Greece. Defiance would not be tolerated. The rebellions stopped. Greece was once again firmly under his control. With his home base secured, Alexander could now turn his attention back to his father's ultimate dream, the invasion of Persia. In the spring of 334 BC, just 2 years after becoming king, Alexander the Great stood at the edge of Europe. He gathered an army of about 48,000 soldiers. Macedonians and Greek Alexanders crossed the Hellespont, the narrow strait separating Europe from Asia. Legend says that, as he approached the shore of Asia Minor, he hurled his spear into the soil and was the first to leap onto the land, claiming Asia as Spear One territory. This was more than a military campaign. For Alexander, it was the beginning of his destiny. He was no longer just the king of Macedon, he was the leader of a crusade. The new Achilles, ready to carve his name into the annals of history. The rise was complete. The legend was just beginning. From a prince in a marginalized kingdom to the undisputed master of Greece, Alexander's journey to power was a masterclass in ambition, strategy, and ruthless determination. He inherited a powerful army and a grand vision from his father, but it was his own genius, charisma, and unwavering belief in his destiny that allowed him to seize that legacy and make it his own. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about the figures who shaped our world. Let us know in the comments which historical figure you'd like to see us cover next. See you in the next video.